afternoon. You with Newsfeed, you would have seen the news breaking here yesterday about the passing on of the founding leader of Zambia, Kenneth Kaunda, dying at the age of 97. Played an immense role in the founding of Zambia as a modern state, as a post-colonial state, as an independent country, but also then using Zambia to play an important role in the struggle for freedom against colonialism across Africa and against apartheid here. Dakota Legoete is an acting spokesperson for our governing party, the African National Congress. Dakota, good afternoon to you. How will the ANC remember Kenneth Kaunda?
Thank you very much, Stephen, and good afternoon to you and all the viewers at home. As the African National Congress, we are deeply saddened by the passing of the father of the South African freedom, the father of African independence, the icon of the national liberation struggle against apartheid colonialism and imperialism, because Kenneth Kaunda does not only becomes an icon of the Zambian people, he's an icon of the entire SADC region and the entire continent and the entire oppressed people in the world, because he represents freedom, he represents independence. If we have to speak about a giant of this caliber and his generation, they've done wonders against the most powerful nations on earth, including Kenneth Kaunda standing alone against Pretoria at the time of J.B. Foster, P.W. Botha, F.W. de Klerk. You name them all, these tyrants of the apartheid colonialism who had a nuclear power. But Kenneth Kaunda was not afraid of their nuclear. He was clear that one Africa, one people, and freedom and independence for the whole of Africa. So, as the ANC, we are deeply saddened because he played a special role in our cases, the African National Congress. People would have to be reminded that it was Kenneth Kaunda who was consulted by President Oliver Tambo when we drafted the Harare Declaration. It was President Kenneth Kaunda who opened his country for the first time for us to engage a delegation of white Afrikaners who were sick and tired of apartheid, led by Frederick Francis Laber. It was President Kaunda who organized meetings in London and Egypt for us to meet with Pep Botha and other apartheid ministers at that time to start the process which led to the negotiations, and subsequent to that led to the 1994 or 27 April election. So he played a special role in the formation of our democracy, but he played a special role also in the liberation of all countries in the region, including Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Angola, you name them, all of them, including Namibia. But the reason why he's so special to us as the African National Congress is that you would know, as the ANC, we had branches in all SADC countries. In Zimbabwe, we had ANC Southern Rhodesia, which later became ZAPU. We had ANC Northern Rhodesia, which later became ZANU. We had Zambia African National Congress, which Kenneth Kaunda was the Secretary General of, and Henry Nkambula was the president of it. But because of their ideological difference, Kenneth Kaunda broke away from that Zambia ANC to form UNIP, which became the new ANC in their term in Zambia. We had ANC Southwest Africa, which later became SWAPO. Now, the African National Congress has been having relations with all of the liberation movements in the continent from as early as 1912, and some of them appreciated the ANC, including appreciating Nkosi Sikelel as their national anthem because of that umbilical cord that they had in the contact with the ANC. And Kenneth Kaunda, as he has passed on here, is the former Secretary General of the Zambia African National Congress. He's also the founding president of UNIP, which later became the governing party post-independence in 1964. But just like Mama Charlotte Maxeke, Kenneth Kaunda was never selfish. When he rose, he took someone along, and that's what he did by housing Frelimo to liberate Mozambique, by housing ZANU and ZAPU to liberate Zimbabwe by housing MPLA to liberate Angola for Agostinho Neto, to do the same with SWAPO. It was also based in Zambia, to liberate Southwest Africa, led by, of course, General Sam Chuma and General Toivo Datoivo. Even in South Africa, the African National Congress stayed in Zambia for over 30 years, led, of course, by President Oliver Tambo. But as the ANC, we must appreciate this benevolent human spirit that was demonstrated by David Kenneth Kaunda, popularly named as Papa KK, Dr. KK. So it's a terrible loss to us as a movement, but it's a terrible loss to the continent. And as South Africans, we need to pay homage and tribute to a caliber of Kenneth Kaunda, because he was never selfish. He was a selfless leader. Even now, being a president for 27 years, he was never a millionaire or billionaire. He worked for his people. And I'm confident that if we can have leaders of the caliber of Dr. KK, we will go far as a continent and as a people, because you can look, his sickness and his weakness coincided with what we saw on TV through the Pan-African Parliament. Somebody who's a struggle icon like Kenneth Kaunda would have been depressed by what we saw, brothers and sisters from African continent kicking each other, beating each other inside a parliament, which is supposed to be a festival of ideas, a theater of statesmen and stateswomen. But it was turned into a mockery, undermining the efforts which were taken by people and elders and giants like Kenneth Kaunda. And I think it will only be fair that as the African National Congress, as the people of South Africa, as the people of African continent, to pay our last respect to this icon and giant of our struggle, but by doing the correct things, fighting corruption, ensuring that we deliver services to our people, ensuring that we educate our children, because Kenneth Kaunda, one of the things he was known for, it was his love and passion for education. But not only his love and passion for education, his love and passion for his people. He had an unabiding love for any African, irrespective from which direction of the continent we were coming from. He had the love for music. He had love for arts. He was just such a special and a classical old man who had respect for his people and who had respect for his continent.
We're speaking to Dakota Legoete from the governing African National Congress, the acting spokesperson for the ANC. Also on your screen at the moment, you can, of course, see Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. We expect that press conference to start in a few moments. At the moment that it does, we'll be live there. Dakota Legoete, we've only just scratched the surface, of course, of the life of Kenneth Kaunda, an immense role that he played. He was taking a big risk to allow liberation movements, really to invite liberation movements, to have a home in Zambia. I mean, just on his border was then Ian Smith's Rhodesia, now of course Zimbabwe, Democratic, now Zimbabwe. At the time, the apartheid military was seen as very, very strong. It showed you, Kenneth Kaunda, that firstly he was very brave. Secondly, he really believed in the liberation of the entire continent of Africa.
Indeed, Stephen. The reason why we call him a giant, it's because he had no fear for a nuclear power like apartheid South Africa. He had no fear for an atomic bomb. He housed leaders of all liberation movements. You must remember, some of them were regarded and listed as terrorists by CIA. Some of them were regarded and listed as terrorists by Pretoria, including our former president, Oliver Tambo. But he managed to house him, not fearing any power in the world, not fearing any regime in the world. He was clear and conscious that one Africa, one people, one liberation. We will remember him as one of the gallant fighters of our struggle, not only for the Zambian people, but for the entire region and the entire continent. And I think as part of emulating the caliber of Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, we can only do our best to ensure that there are jobs, to ensure that there's service delivery, to ensure that there's electricity, to ensure that we don't put our hands in the cookie jar.
Frederick
Shuluba tried to implicate Kenneth Kaunda.
Dakota Legoete, I do appreciate the time. I'm so sorry to have to interrupt you there, so thank you very much indeed. Acting spokesperson for the governing African National Congress.